You are listening to Perplexity.
She will take your life and all you are, and all you carest for, and she will leave you with nothing but mist and fog. She will take your joy, and one day you'll awake, and your heart and soul will have gone. A husk you'll be, a wisp you'll be, and a thing no more than a dream on waking, or a memory of something forgotten. In her truest form, she is a thief of souls, an evil, hideous old crone with demonic features. But she is also a shapeshifter, often resulting in presenting herself as a beautiful, attractive woman. She originates from the forests of Romania. Alternative names for her are Muma Padurii, the Witch of the Woods, the Spider Queen, and Other Mother. She also shares similar folklore stories to the Baba Yaga in Slavic folklore. This is the story of the Beldam. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Perplexity, a mystery podcast. As always, I am your host, Kadra. If you're new to the show, hello and welcome. I tell tales every single week that have perplexed me. So if you love a good mystery that leaves you wanting more, don't worry, you're in the right place. And if you end up enjoying today's episode, I would love it if you continue to follow along. If you are a returning listener, hello, my friends. Happy October. So happy you're here. And I have a great story for you guys today. So excited because this is a very special episode. Today I have my sister again, who y'all know and love, Karlisa.
Yes, thank you. And I'm here in the flesh this time.
In person.
Not over a Zoom call.
And we have like a proper setup this time.
Mm-hmm.
We've got my usual spooky setup. We each have a mic.
Mm-hmm. All fancy.
We have like a sound system that we so graciously got to borrow from my future father-in-law. Thank you, Terrence.
Yes.
And I mean, this story is perfect for me and Karlisa.
Yes, it is. We have our spooky cups, our spooky mugs.
Yes.
Our spooky shirts.
Spooky shirts.
Spooky earrings.
For those listening, I have a vampire mug.
I have the Grim Reaper.
Yes, shout out Target.
Yes, they're super cute.
And yeah, we've got our spooky shirts on. Carlisa has some ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, y'all might have seen this design on a couple Etsy shops. It's like the little Frappuccino drinks, but each one is a scary movie. Like there's a Scream drink.
Yes, love the Michael Myers.
Yes, there's
beautiful.
Freddy Krueger. Yes, and then Jason. It's perfect. Yeah, and this is, so the Beldam, for those of you who have not watched Coraline, you need to watch Coraline.
Immediately.
I'll try to give as much context as I can for anybody listening that hasn't seen this movie, but this is like me and Karlisa's probably favorite movie. I still remember when we saw it in theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was 2008 when it came out, and we saw it in theaters for the first time. And even as so I was 11 years old in 2008, and it still like just blew my mind because we saw it in 3D, right?
Yeah, and I think that was like one of the first movies we maybe saw in 3D or where it was proper, like really, really cool stop animation, like high quality.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. The storyline's so good. Did you read the book? I can't remember if you...
I actually, so I read the book to my students. I wasn't aware of how like different and how much darker it was than the actual movie. So I thought like it would be a cool book to read to my students, and it kind of freaked them out a little bit. Freaked me out a little bit too, but it was good. No. It was really good. But I am a fan of both, honestly. I think they just portray the story incredibly well. Now it's just so well written.
Yeah.
It's a really cool film and book.
And the Beldam is this evil villain in Coraline that was inspired by all these different folklore stories from all around the world. She's a hodgepodge of all these different things. So we'll talk about that, but that's what we're talking about when we say Beldam. She is the evil villain in the Coraline book and the Coraline movie. So excited. I've got my Coraline portrait up on my spooky shelf for those of y'all who can see it. So we'll hone her energy for this story today. So a couple quick announcements and then we'll get right into it. First of all, want to remind everybody again, save the date, Wednesday, October 30th, 8 p.m. Central on YouTube Live. I will have my Halloween live show and I'm doing a whole story. It'll be really fun. Last time I read like listener stories and chatted to you guys. There will still be chatting, maybe some listener stories if we have time. But this time I'm going to do like a full episode for you guys because we're ringing in 100 episodes on Halloween week. Yes.
All right.
So
love that.
I was like, why would we not do a full story?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Have to.
So save the date on that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't at Perplexity Mystery Podcast. Patreon.com/Perplexity Mystery Podcast is where we are always having all these new like bonus content things coming out. It's a great way to connect with me and other listeners, support the show. Early and ad-free episodes are at the $1 a month tier. So if that interests you, I know I got monetized recently. I talked about this a little bit several weeks ago. I know there's more ads coming up. So if that interests you, you get ad-free stuff on Patreon and you get it early. This week on Patreon, I am still releasing my Cursed Games series. So I think this week it's going to be the Closet game that comes out, and that's a super creepy, like, ritual game. Ooh. Yeah, we talked about the Midnight game and the Three Kings game so far, and then just wrapped up my true crime documentary coverage on Missy Witt. So I think what's going to be next, because at the time I'm recording this, I haven't released it yet, is going to be Texas Urban Legends. And I have written the story for that, and that's going to be about Old Springtown. It's like a whole cursed town in Texas. They say the whole town is cursed. So go check that out if that interests you. And without further ado, quick trigger warning, podcast is not for children, so listener discretion there. All the sources are down in the show notes. So, Karlisa, are you ready?
Kadra, I am so ready. I'm so ready for this story. After the last story that you told me, it was a little dark, and that's just sugarcoating it. So we're excited about a nice spooky, Halloween theme.
I don't think your stomach will hurt after this one. Our last episode was the Garanhuns Cannibals of Brazil, and that is probably, if not the worst story I've told on this podcast. So yeah, this will be a lot more lighthearted and fun. It's spooky and dark, but fun.
Yes.
Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this story all about the Beldam. So the Beldam is a mystical, shape-shifting, malevolent spider queen who feeds off of souls. She became much more popular thanks to the film Coraline, aka one of me and Karlisa's favorite movies. And the film was inspired by Neil Gaiman's book, Coraline, that was published in 2002. So in the book, for those of you who are not familiar with the story, there is a young girl named Coraline. She discovers a mysterious door in her new home that leads her to an alternate reality. Everything beyond the door mirrors the world she came from, but appears better. So the colors, the flavors, the sounds, everything's just better. It's more vivid, as if it was created specifically for her. In this alternate world, Coraline encounters the Beldam, who introduces herself as Coraline's other mother. The Beldam looks just like her mother, but at first she's much kinder and she's more beautiful. As the story progresses, Coraline begins to see through the cracks in the illusion and comes to the horrifying realization that the other mother has manipulated her and has intentions to steal her soul. When the Beldam's malice intent becomes clear, Coraline discovers her ability to shapeshift. So in the Beldam's true form, she is this tall, pale...
spider-like.
Yeah, very spider-like monster, very gaunt. She has this horrifying grin, these long, spindly claws fashioned from sewing needles, which was always super creepy to me. I have the hand from the Addams family up here, Wednesday Addams, if y'all can see it on the shelf. And she has like this, like her hand comes alive.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a similar vibe. If you guys have seen like Wednesday or the Addams Family and you know, is this, I should know who this is. That's so embarrassing. It, or The Thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I blinked on the name for a second. If y'all have seen The Thing and you haven't seen Coraline, that'll help you because the Beldam, and at least in the movie, her hands can come off.
This is a lot meatier than the Beldam's
Yeah, this
hand.
is like a skeleton, essentially. So some speculate that the needle hands are a necessity because her body is decaying because it's been too long since she last trapped a child. So she was forced to fashion her hand from parts that she could find. The Beldam also has the power to create life. In the movie, not included in the book, the Beldam fashions many dolls who appear as doppelgangers of people Coraline is familiar with. Some people compare them to voodoo dolls. And these dolls sometimes disobey the Beldam, and they side with Coraline, which indicates that there is a spark of human soul likely involved in their creation. The Beldam dolls travel to the real world and act as her spies, almost like a form of voodoo. So the Beldam captures human souls by taking possession of their eyes, but only when they are freely given, indicating she requires permission, kind of like a vampire. She has to be invited in. So one of the big sources that I used for this is novusbestiary.com, and on there they say about the eyes, quote, "Our eyes have contained our human soul since the scales fell from them in the Garden of Eden. They are the window between our divine essence and the earthly realm." So, I mean, in the movie, in the book, the button eyes are so iconic.
Yeah.
And so terrifying.
They were the first thing that Coraline noticed about the other mother, because she was kind of, when she first was introduced to her, she was turned around and she was kind of
humming in the kitchen.
So she's like, "Mom, what are you doing here?" And she turns around and she's like, "Oh my God, like, you're not my mom." She's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm your other mother, silly."
And she's like, "Duh."
Yeah, obviously.
And she's like, "Obviously." And I think she's like, everybody has one. But the pair of the black button eyes is so shocking. And so when I was looking into this, that's one of the first things I wanted to know is like, do the buttons mean anything? And there's some different theories about that. So here's a quote from Gaiman's book when Coraline first had encounters with the Beldam. And this is going to be that same scene that you were just describing. "A woman stood in the kitchen with her back to Coraline. She looked a little like Coraline's mother. Only, ... only her skin was white as paper. Only she was taller and thinner. Only her fingers were too long, and they never stopped moving," which reminded me of the part in the movie when she's tapping her hand. "And her dark red fingernails were curved and sharp. Coraline," the woman said, "is that you?" And then she turned around. Her eyes were big black buttons. "Lunchtime, Coraline," said the woman. "Who are you?" asked Coraline. "I'm your other mother," said the woman. End quote. So what we really want to know is, like, where does the Beldam come from? Because me and Karlisa, like, how many times do you think we've seen this movie?
An ungodly amount of times, honestly.
It's our comfort movie, I would say.
We know it front and back, for sure.
Yeah.
We've asked a lot of these questions ourselves every time. I think every time we watch it, we come up with a new question.
Or a new theory.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. So now we're going to know after today.
All right.
Okay, so where does the Beldam come from? According to novusbestiary.com, the gods granted the Beldam dominion over the forest long ago, and we do see the Beldam in Romanian folklore, but she has a different name. And they have, like, interviewed Neil Gaiman about his inspirations, and Muma Padurii is one of his inspirations, and she is this creepy crone in Romanian folklore. So the legend basically goes like this. She lived in this dreadful house. She was hidden away from the world, and it was her job. She was tasked by God to be the protector of the forest. She would protect all the animals, the plants, kind of like an environmentalist. She's like, nobody touches this, does this.
Okay.
And she was like a witch because she would be in her little cottage brewing potions. She helped injured animals. And she started gaining, I guess as she was doing this magic, she started gaining these powers. So she realized she could manipulate her surroundings, make things look different. She would change the layout of the forest sometimes, and at first she did this to keep the forest from dying. Then over time, she started to do it to manipulate people. Like if there were people coming in
that she
didn't want there, then she would, like, purposefully get them lost or, like, change a path.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's freaky.
Yeah, creepy, right? So she started doing that, and over time, she started to use these manipulation powers to lure humans into her home. She had grown to despise humankind because of the atrocities that they had committed on the land. So she's out to get revenge, basically.
Okay.
Then it just keeps escalating. So she would lure these people in. Then she acquired the taste for human flesh, especially children, and her hunger only grew.
You told me we would not be eating people anymore. Why did you lie?
I did not say that.
Okay, buddy.
I didn't say that.
All right,
I said this
here.
is dark but more fun. Because here's the thing, this isn't real.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The other story was
a little bit of a difference there.
This is very much, and I think it's in my notes, this is very much Hansel and Gretel.
Okay.
Yeah. Same legend, essentially.
Okay.
You're like so mad.
You told me.
I tricked you. Okay. And we get through this part pretty fast too. But so with this acquired taste for human flesh, she realized it gave her more power. So she started to transform not only her surroundings, but herself. She could make herself look like this beautiful maiden to manipulate men or whatever. She started crafting these cunning illusions and weaving them all about, just like how a spider weaves an intricate web. She became ravenous. So the kind of like in a lot of the monster stories, the more they feed, the more hungry they become. So she realized flesh wasn't doing it for her. She has to feed on souls because that gives her more
flesh is
power.
Not good enough anymore. No more flesh.
No.
Need the whole thing.
And she would also enslave children sometimes. I'm not sure what for, but that's one of the legends. And another one said she boiled a little girl alive in a soup.
Okay.
Sorry, that's not funny.
Okay.
But, okay.
You're right. Again, it's not real. It's not
real. Okay. Again, you know what it reminds me of? And this will lighten it up a little bit. When we used to play turtle soup when we were little kids.
Okay. And we would like capture each other and put us in that canopy that was hanging above my bed and like close it.
Do you want to explain what this is?
We would play it with our cousins, and basically there would be one person that was like the hunter and the rest of us would be turtles. I don't know where the turtles came from.
I have no idea. You know how you would play like pretend games with your sisters, your siblings, whatever. So we like play house. We played turtle soup.
Yeah. So we would all be turtles. The one person would be hunters. Usually it would be either Nicole or Hunter. That was the hunter, of course. And we would crawl and we would try and run away and they would capture us and put us into
a soup.
The soup. I mean, it's not that intricate. It's literally like
it's literally the most basic game that nothing actually happens. It's literally catch and boil.
It was fun to us though.
It was so fun.
Again, I don't know why we decided to be turtles. I mean,
I don't either.
Turtles are actually like really dangerous to eat because they have a lot of bacteria
and so my grandma had a farm. So this is where we would always play. And it was in East Texas in Palestine. And the bottom floor of the farmhouse had like 10 bunk beds. I don't know why.
They were planning on more grandchildren, I think.
I think so. There were so many bunk beds. And so the turtles' cages, when we would get caught, were a bunk bed. So we would get thrown onto like the bottom bunk or whatever.
Okay, but do you remember our grandma? She also had these like many, many bottles of like anointing oils in like the colorful little twisty turny bottles. And when they would capture us, we would have to drink them and they would like knock us out unconscious.
So creative.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun than it sounds, I promise.
Yeah. So that's what it made me think of when it was like, oh, they boiled a girl alive in the soup. I thought of turtle soup.
That's going to stick with us forever.
Okay. So see, that lightened it up. So,
Okay.
And I think we're past, if my memory serves, I think we're past the like really dark stuff now. Yeah. So, okay. So in that story where the little girl is supposed to be boiled alive, the little girl's brother comes to her rescue, outsmarts Muma Padurii, and pushes Muma into an oven. She's like,
ooh,
goodbye, no more. So then the little girl's saved. The story kind of ends on a happy note. The children were freed and able to get back home to their parents.
Okay.
So in modern culture, I thought this was funny. In Romania, instead of saying that someone's ugly, they sometimes say, she looks like Muma Padurii.
Oh, okay. Sounds a little hocus pocusy as well.
Yeah.
Like the theme of luring children to steal their souls, to grow more beautiful or stay youthful. It's kind of within that realm as well.
Yeah, this had similar elements to the Bloody Mary legends that we did way back in episode 17.
Yeah.
And I thought that too as I was researching it. So according to Neil Gaiman, he blended folklore from all over the world when he created this unique and iconic villain. He says that she draws inspiration from fairies, witches, and various legends in Romania. Also very similar, like I said, in like Slavic folklore, Baba Yaga is a creature that's very similar to Muma Padurii that I hadn't heard of. But when I was telling TJ, my fiance, all about this, he said, oh, that reminds me of Baba Yaga. And I looked that up, and sure enough, it's like the same story. Like Hansel and Gretel, Muma Padurii, Baba Yaga, they're all like pretty much the same story, just different parts of the world.
Okay.
Which I always think is so interesting about folklore, because it's like, these are all places that are far away enough from each other that have the same story. So it could kind of be like Bloody Mary, where there's some truth to it.
Yeah. Like originally based around some sort of truth. You're right.
Yeah. So as far as like what the Beldam could be, a lot of people assume, and I mean, I did too, a lot of people assume that she is a witch, which makes sense because I mean, her name, the Beldam literally means witch or ugly old woman.
Yeah.
She also has magical powers. But when you look at the Beldam's abilities as a whole, she actually aligns more with a fairy.
Okay.
Fairies are naturally magical spirits, whereas witches are mortal beings that have to train to get their abilities. And she was never immortal.
Okay.
If we go with like her folklore legend, she's always been a monster. So that would be more of a fairy. In 1819, English author John Keats also wrote a poem called La Belle Dame sans Merci. And many people believe this poem was a large inspiration for Neil Gaiman and his book Coraline. Keats was inspired by the witch craze of the 17th century and a true story of a Massachusetts woman named Eunice Goody Cole, who was accused of being a beldam. In 1656, Cole's unkempt appearance and odd behaviors, like mumbling to herself, led to her being labeled a witch, basically. Okay. So she gets accused of all kinds of crazy things. They're like, you caused this tornado, you killed my 2 calves, you caused my child to die. They accused her of shapeshifting and working with the devil, and she ended up being put on trial. She luckily was not killed, but she was beaten and imprisoned in Boston for 10 years.
That's surprising that they didn't kill her.
I know.
At that time, honestly?
Yeah.
Jinx, stop.
Stop. We keep jinxing. Yeah, I was honestly surprised about that too. I was like, as I started reading it, I was like, oh no, I know where this is going. But they didn't kill her.
Hey, but you know, the fairy versus witch thing, back when Kendall and I would watch Coraline just every single day, we got interested in the music. You know, we would go and we would listen to the playlist of the movie, and we were always like, what are they saying? Because we know they're singing in a different language. And so one time we looked up a translation of the songs that they sing at the beginning, you know, the little girl voices, and it was like, the witch is coming to get you. Like, I specifically remember it mentioning a witch. So that's an interesting theory.
Well, and there can totally be different opinions too, and like most people, at least surface level, are like, she's a witch.
Yeah.
But if you look at a lot of fairy folklore, and there are evil fairies, most fairies are malevolent. So a lot of people that
malevolent fairy. I'm sorry.
What?
I've never heard those 2 words in a sentence together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When I did my fairy episode, that's like what all the sources were like. They're more malevolent in nature. Or malevolent, sorry.
I was like, wait, okay.
I mixed malevolent and benevolent.
Malevolent.
Yeah. So, like, the deeper sources that I kept going into, they were always like, she's more like a fairy because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that does make sense.
Okay.
But, I mean, like, looks-wise, she definitely looks more witchy.
Right.
Yeah. And, I mean, like, the songs that are like, she's, the witch is coming, makes sense. And her name means witch. So, it could definitely be a bit of both.
Yeah.
The title of Keats' poem, the La Beldam Sans Merci, translates to the beautiful woman without mercy. And in this poem, a knight is traveling when he comes across this gorgeous lady, and he refers to her as a fairy's child. She quickly confesses her love for him, so she love bombs him, and casually leads him into a secluded cave. And in the cave, the knight and the mysterious woman have this nice little date. They dance, they make love.
No, gestures were not necessary. I knew what you meant by they made love, okay? Okay, censor.
They're fine.
Okay.
So they do their deed, and then she would sing him a soothing song that would put him to sleep, which kind of gave me siren vibes. And while the knight slept, he has this very vivid dream. In the dream, he is warned that he is in terrible danger, and he's been tricked. He was being trapped and enslaved by a cruel mistress. So the knight wakes up, and when he wakes up, he finds he is actually alone on a cold, wet, grassy hill. So he's not in the cave anymore. And the beautiful woman is gone. So he ends up wandering into this nearby town, trying to figure out what to do, and he tells a villager what happens to him. And soon after, he mysteriously dies, succumbing to a mysterious curse that the woman seemed to have put on him.
It's interesting that you're in terrible danger in the dream, because in the movie, when she's placed into that, like, dank room and the children come to her, and that's the first thing that the first ghost says to her is, "You're in terrible danger, girl."
Yeah, that's why I worded it that way, because I wanted you to pick up on that connection. Yes, that is exactly what they said in these sources, is like it aligns to this.
Okay.
So when comparing this poem to Coraline, you will see several similarities. There's this wandering protagonist. Coraline stumbles across this mysterious universe, this mysterious, beautiful woman, and there's people trying to warn her, you're in terrible danger. In the book, the ghosts of the Beldam's previous victims come to Coraline in a dream, and they're the ones who warn her this is all a trap. Fairies, going back to the fairies again, are also able to manipulate their environment. They like to play games, and the Beldam loves games. They love mischief, and they're known to make deals, which they make a deal in the movie.
Everybody loves games.
Yeah.
That's how she
says that in such a weird way.
Yes, I know you like them. Everybody likes games.
She's like, again, like, duh. Everybody has one. Everybody loves games.
Yeah.
It is also known that it is dangerous to take food from fairies. And Coraline eats a lot.
That's like the main thing that she uses to entice her.
Right. There's theories about that.
Okay.
So this could be the Beldam trying to take on a stereotypical mother role, like, here, honey, eat this. Oh, that's so good. Or it could be her trying to fatten them up, like the story of Hansel and Gretel. Her soul tastes better. Or it could be like her food has a power over her because she's immortal and she can manipulate her.
Maybe a little bit of all. I mean, because the movie emphasized the fact that Coraline had horrible food in the real world.
Yeah.
Her dad did the cooking and he couldn't cook at all. And she would go to bed hungry.
Yeah, I love the way they do it in the movie, too, because when she's in her house in the real world, the colors are all very muted.
Dull.
Yeah, everything's dull, gray. Even, like, the skin tones of her parents, they look gray.
Yeah.
And then she goes into that tunnel, and it's colorful and vivid, and, like, in 3D, it looked amazing. And then everything's warm and, like, candlelight, and then, the garden.
Yeah.
That's, like, my favorite part of the whole movie. You guys need to watch Coraline if you haven't seen it. So, yeah, that's a stark difference. So in fairy folklore, humans warn about the consequences of accepting food from a fairy. So some other examples. In the famous story of Persephone in Greek mythology, pomegranate seeds curse her to stay in the underworld. In the original story of Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf tricks the little girl into eating her grandmother's flesh and drinking her blood. Did you know that?
I just thought they were cookies. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't know this either.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in more of like those like Brothers Grimm kinds of tales, the story of Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf actually tricks the little girl into eating the grandma.
Wow.
And drinking her blood. And I think she like tricks her like it's cookies or whatever.
Oh
but
my God. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were done eating people. I forgot.
Yeah,
My
okay.
bad. Sorry, guys. So perhaps Coraline eating the food made by the Beldam made her more vulnerable to magic and manipulation. And that's like classic fairy.
Mm-hmm.
This is also interesting because throughout the movie and the book, you never see the Beldam eating any of the food. The only food she eats is like that little cockroach thing. Mm-hmm. So nothing that that Coraline eats.
And the father eats the food as well.
Yeah.
Which towards the end of the movie, I mean,
he's doing her bidding.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, she controls everybody in that world.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So some people say the evil woman in John Keats' poem that we were talking about earlier was inspired by Celtic folklore and the Leannan She. This is a fairy that is known to inspire artists should they agree to love her. So she, wants that love.
I'm sorry. I just thought about one more thing. With the feeding, do you remember that scene where the dad takes Coraline to the garden and the little flowers are biting her and he's like, no, tickle no more, you dragon snappers. And he picks him up and he takes him to the kitchen. And during that scene, the other mother is feeding the flowers her food.
Oh.
And then towards later on, the flowers are what attacks her when she comes back into the world.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? She does. She's sitting there feeding the flowers while they're sitting there eating, and then...
Okay, I'm, convinced now. The food is controlling all of them.
They end up attacking her when she comes back into the garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I mean, food is, such a basic need, and, I mean, that's such a... that stupid phrase that's the way to a man's heart is to his stomach. It's that same concept. You're winning them over and controlling them.
Is this a left-handed mug?
I never noticed that because I am left-handed too. Whoa.
You left-handist? What the heck is this?
What the heck?
Because I keep holding it like this and I feel like a Neanderthal. I'm covering up the little cute face, but now I have to hold it with my left hand.
Don't drop it. If you get water on this stuff, I will have a panic attack.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, so the fairy, the Leannan She. So she is known to inspire artists if they will agree to love her. And in Coraline, I think there's a line where she's like, "Why don't you love me?" Mm-hmm. And when the Beldam turns into the crone and she's freaking out.
Yeah.
So she longs for that love and she's like, "I'll give you whatever you want if you love me." She then gives artists the tools to become successful and famous in exchange. And when they are at the peak of their success, she abandons them, leading ultimately to their demise. Then she feeds on their corpse and drinks their blood, allowing her to maintain a youthful appearance.
More eating, people.
We have a theme. It's not real.
It's okay. It's your favorite.
The giving the artist whatever they want and making them powerful reminded me of that season of American Horror Story. Did you watch that one, the vampire one? It's a newer season. It came out a few years ago.
Which, do you know what it was called?
No, it's not Apocalypse.
Okay.
Let me see, season.
Because Apocalypse was
names.
The Coven Murder House hotel mashup one. Oh, was it the one with Kim Kardashian?
No, that's Delicate. Okay. That one just came out. This was several years ago.
Oh, okay.
Delicate was really good, in my opinion.
It was weird, but it was good. It was good. Every episode Nick and I watched, and we were like, what the hell is going on right now?
It might be NYC. I'm not sure, but there's a season where there's like a family, and they're like an all-American family. They move to like the seaside, and I think the dad is like writing a book.
Okay, that's literally the only season that I have not watched.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. It's not one of my favorites, but it's that same thing of like they meet. It's been a while since I've seen this, so I might be remembering this wrong, but I think they meet these people and they're actually vampires, but they don't know. And then like they make a deal with them, and then they make them super powerful so he can like write this amazing book. And then the daughter becomes this amazing musician. Like she's a really good violinist.
Okay.
But then it all like turns against them at the end.
Okay.
So similar vibe there. Okay, so as for sewing the buttons again into the eyes of her victims, Neil Gaiman has said this was inspired by Lucy Clifford's 1882 story, The New Mother. In this story, a mother abandons her 2 young, mischievous girls. In her place comes a new mother, wearing a set of shiny glass eyes, a long black robe, and a long wooden tail that drags behind her.
What?
And I want to show you a picture of her because she is so creepy.
A long wooden tail?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, look at this. It's like a long, like, pointy stick of wood. It's almost like a spider leg.
Oh, and look at the hands.
Yeah, like the long, elongated fingers, and she has glass eyes. Ooh. Yeah, super creepy looking.
That's freaky.
So I think this is like their original mother, because I was looking at these pictures earlier. Okay. And then that's the new mother that shows up. Like, can you just imagine if your mom abandoned you and this thing showed up?
And you're like, yay, Mom.
These pictures will all be in the YouTube video and on the Instagram page.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super, super creepy. So regarding this legend and the theory of the buttons, other people have speculated the buttons could symbolize the Beldam's view of her victims because they're nothing more than dolls to her or things to be controlled.
Okay.
Playthings.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that too.
Mm-hmm. And then coming back to like the beginning of the script when we were talking about the doppelganger / voodoo type of dolls, which again are not mentioned in the book, they share a similar folklore to changelings. Have you heard of changelings?
I have.
Okay. So changelings are the deformed offspring of fairies or elves substituted for a human infant. And this is like there's a lot of lore about changelings when you read about fairies. Mm-hmm. Abducted children are then given to the devil or used to strengthen fairy magic. In Coraline, she is also gifted an adder stone, the one she looks through. Mm-hmm. And this is used in the Beldam's world to find the eyes of the ghost children and save their souls. This stems from European folklore. So in European folklore, they're called sometimes witches' stones or serpent's eggs. And these were believed to have magical properties. If you were to look through it, then you could see through a witch's disguise or traps. And remember, like, the witch craze was really big in Europe at first. So you could get this and it would show you who a witch was.
Oh, okay.
They would also allegedly cure sickness and serve as protection. Gaiman created one of the most iconic and terrifying children's books villains in history, inspired by folklore from around the world. The Beldam continues to mystify readers and viewers today and shares similarities to characters in other works of Gaiman, including Ocean at the End of the Lane, a book I recently read that I told you about. They're actually going to make this into a stop-motion animated movie. Gaiman announced this news in June 2024. Okay. And if you like Coraline, if you like the Beldam lore, I think you will definitely like the book. I would recommend Ocean at the End of the Lane. It's a good read. It's very creepy, and it's a pretty short book. Very similar vibes to the Beldam. So I'm super excited for that movie to come out. I just wanted to plug that because it's going to be, basically, it's supposed to be a prequel for Coraline, or it's like meant to pair with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you say the name of that thing?
The adder stone.
The adder stone. Okay, I never knew that.
I'll show you what they look like from back then.
Okay. My question always was, because in the movie, do you remember how she gets it?
The toffee thing,
Miss
the
Spink,
candy.
Miss Spink and Forcible give it to her. And they're like, oh, we don't know what it's for. It's just good for bad things or good for lost things. And I was always wondering, like, what is their part and all of it? Like, they obviously know that something is going on.
Yeah, I think they're like meant to be sensitives, but they're in the real world.
Yeah.
So they can sense that something's wrong. So it's almost like they're like psychics in a way, like trying to guide her. You know, those like, I don't know the terminology for it, but do you remember in school when we had to learn like the different characters in a, like the protagonist, the antagonist, and then I think there's one that's specifically like the helper or the guide, like that's trying to give them advice and they're kind of like off to the side.
Yeah.
That's what they remind me of because they're trying to like guide her in the right direction.
What would Mr. Bobinski
He's like the clown,
yeah.
I think. Mr. Bobinski is probably my favorite character in that whole movie.
They call you Coraline instead of Caroline. Not Caroline at all. He's great. And he's like doing freaking acrobatics the whole time that he's talking to
that
her.
First scene in the movie where he's like squatting and his legs are like
oompa, oompa. But the mice go only twiddle-teed.
It's so funny. Oh, it's so creepy.
He's hilarious.
Okay, the Adderstone.
Oh, that's just what it looks like, just like in the movie.
Yeah, and like these are more modern day ones, but like in olden times they would have looked more like this. Like literally a stone with a hole in it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the Adderstone.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
I'm just so happy that we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So my Coraline is like a love language for me.
It's a love language.
I'll talk Coraline all day long. A part that I thought was interesting in the story, I can't remember which story it was where you said the little girl's brother pushed the lady into the oven to rescue his sister.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Wybie, you know, in the movie. And like in the other Wybie, he's the one that pulls her out of that room that she's locked in.
Right.
And saves her. And then he kind of gets himself killed.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Oh, yeah.
And helps her escape and all that.
I mean, come to think of it, there's a lot of people that help her. And then there's also the cat that helps her.
Even the dad. The dad tried to help her by giving her that eye, you know, and he was like, I'm sorry, mother's making me.
Oh, that part's so creepy.
And then he's like, everything starts sinking in and he's like trying to get the eyeball off and he like barely gets it to her.
Sorry.
Yeah. And he's like, here, take.
It's such a great movie. It's everything I love in a movie. There's that mysterious nature to it where you have like, as soon as you meet the other mother, there's a sense that something's off, but it's so beautiful and shiny. And I love the way they wrote Coraline. It doesn't Dakota Fanning do her voice. Yeah. It's a great, and I mean, the book is really good too. It made me want to reread the book because I read the book first when I was younger, but I haven't read it since I was a kid.
Yeah. They had to coach her into, talking like someone from Michigan. And, you know, the movie took like 4 years to make. And so she obviously grew up in that time. So she had to keep her voice little, you know, like a little girl throughout that entire experience. Yeah. If you haven't watched behind the scenes stuff of when they made that movie, I definitely recommend it. It's really cool.
I've seen a little bit of it because I wanted to see how they do the setup.
The characters are like this big.
Yeah.
So
they're teeny tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Well, we're doing pretty good on time. Should we round this out with a listener story?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Perfect. Let me pull some up. I have some listener stories. I have been trying to like fit them in episodes when I have time.
Can I read it?
Absolutely.
Yay! Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so these stories are from Kim, and Kim has a lot of stories, so I thought we would like pick one.
Okay.
To start with, at least. I might do a whole episode just reading the rest of Kim's stories. Okay. Yay. I'm excited for you to read it.
I'm so excited.
And I just get to sit back. I haven't read this yet.
Welcome to Perplexity, a mystery podcast. I'm your host, Karlisa Salazar, and this is my guest, Kaja Brannon.
I'm just the clown on the side that makes jokes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Kim says, the ghost stories. I actually have a bunch of little stories. I don't really find them creepy, but others do if you're not used to experiencing these sort of things. I'll start with the most impressive, though, which is that I have seen 3 apparitions in my life. Ooh. 2 of which were corroborated by other people.
Always compelling.
First, when I was in high school, I woke up before everyone else in my house to take a shower in the morning. It was getting to be winter, and it was still dark out when I was getting out of the shower. I turned off the bathroom lights as to not wake my parents, whose bedroom was across from the bathroom. Then I opened the door to head back to my room. Across the hallway in my parents' room, standing next to their bed, I saw a tall, white outline of a man. It was kind of like a shadow, if a shadow could be translucent white instead of dark. There was no distinguishing characteristics about it. It was just a silhouette of a tall man with broad shoulders. I didn't feel afraid. I actually stopped and stared at this thing for a few seconds. And then I thought to myself, I must be tired and need to start getting to bed earlier, and I went to my room to get dressed. An hour or so later, my family had woken up, and I was sitting in my parents' room on their bed talking to my mom while she got ready for the day. I said to her, I'm going to go to bed earlier tonight because when I looked in here this morning, I thought I saw someone standing next to the bed. She stopped what she was doing and pointed to the exact spot on the floor next to the bed where I had seen the strange silhouette of the man standing and said, Do you mean right here? I said, yes. And she said, I look up and see that standing there all the time.
Ooh.
While I was growing up, when we often attributed anything unusual that went on to my mom's dad, my grandfather, who I had never met, who was the only person that had lived and died in our house.
Oh, okay.
We agreed that was likely who we were seeing.
Okay.
Interesting. It kind of makes sense why she wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
Why, and it was the white. Because, you're usually I see a dark, shadowy figure that has red glowing eyes.
Right.
And the classic demonic type spirit.
There's something immediately scarier about seeing a shadow figure versus a figure in white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Okay.
I wonder, so it sounds like they didn't say anything. It was just kind of standing there, and it was, she could tell it was a man, though. It just kind of had broad shoulders, and that was it.
Kind of just watching over her mom, it seemed like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it could be like a guardian in a way. That's cool.
Interesting.
Thank you, Kim, for sending that in. And you sent so many stories, so I do plan to read more. Maybe I'll read another one for my live show or another one in my next episode. If you guys have listener stories, I'm always looking for them. Send your stories to perplexityMysteryPodcast@gmail.com. So that, everybody, is the story of the Beldam, my in-person episode with Karlisa Salazar, my bestie, my sister. Everybody always loves when Karlisa comes on. I've been telling her that I get several messages after I do an episode with her that are like, I love when your sister comes on. Y'all have such good chemistry. It's so fun.
Listen, if we lived closer together, we would probably be doing way more together. It's just hard with the distance and work. And
yeah, Karlisa's a teacher. She has a son.
Yeah.
We live 3 hours away from each other. But anytime we're able to do this, we'll make it happen.
Yes, we will. And it's happened more often than, honestly, our schedules have probably allowed us to. So we've been making it work.
Absolutely. Okay, so I just want to remind everybody really quickly of some things, and then we'll close out the show. So once again, everybody remember, save the date, Wednesday, October 30th, 8 p.m. Central on YouTube Live, Halloween virtual live show and ringing in 100 episodes, so don't miss that. If you enjoyed today's episode, what are you doing?
Splashed water. Did you see that?
No, I just saw you modeling your mug.
It's so cute. Sorry, keep going.
If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you are listening on a podcast, you would be my favorite person ever if you left a 5-star review. On Spotify, you can leave a comment on this exact episode. So let me know your thoughts there. And let's see, last thing would be patreon.com. If you really want to support the show, if you want more bonus content, you're just so perplexed and you need more, patreon.com/Perplexity Mystery Podcast. Do you want to do my outro with me?
Yes.
Okay. You all are amazing.
I hope y'all have a great week and stay safe.
And I will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Why did we say it the exact same?
Oh no.
Bye.